Hello and welcome to Niche References, where I yap about my niche interests so that I don't annoy my friends and family with them. My name is Chris, and today I'm going to be yapping about the food challenges in the Nancy Drew games. I feel like Nancy Drew fans pretty universally love these challenges, and I am no exception. On the whole, they're very fun little side quests to complete while playing the games, sometimes to the point that I totally stop down and just play them instead of the actual game. I was really struggling to rank all of these, so I ended up actually creating 3 criteria for this ranking, each of which is on a 5-point scale. First criteria, is it fun? This one is pretty straightforward. Do I like it? Is it one I would do over and over again, even if I didn't have to? This is probably a good time to point out that this list as a whole is very subjective, and especially this criteria. So this list is just my personal opinion, obviously. Second criteria is how well integrated is it into the story? Is there a valid reason that I'm doing this, or is it just very transparently there to pad out gameplay? And the third and final criteria, it's impact on the gameplay. Does it impede gameplay? Does it force gameplay to come to a grinding halt? And even worse, does it do that repeatedly? The line for what does and doesn't count as a cooking challenge can be a little fuzzy, so I have ended up deferring to the list that Wizard Kitten used in her own video on this topic, which I will link down in the description, and I've also added the new coffee game from Mystery of the Seven Keys. Some examples of things that didn't end up on the list are the food orders from Sea of Darkness and freeform food making, such as making tea in Thornton Hall. Coming in last place, as it tends to do in my rankings, it's Shave Ice from Creature of Kapu Cave. In this cooking task, Nancy has to accurately guess Big Island Mike's favorite shave ice order, which is a combination of 3 flavors. Its highest score in the 3 criteria is a 2 out of 5 for integration into the story. We're at least given a reason for doing this task. It's a really stupid one, but a teeny tiny attempt was made. However, I gave it a 1 out of 5 for both fun and for impact on gameplay. This task just is not fun. It's simply guess and check, and I hate guess and check. On top of that, you have to pay for each shave ice cone you make, so you basically have to save scrum, or you're going to be stuck in an endless loop of needing to make more Big Island bucks to make more guesses. It's annoying and tedious at best, and at worst, it grinds your game to a complete stop as you fish to make money to buy Mike shave ice that he is selling, all because he wants you to guess his favorite flavors instead of just being a normal human and telling you. So this task gets a total of 4 points out of a possible 15, and I wish I could give it even fewer. Next up is coffee making from Mystery of the Seven Keys. This is especially sad for me because I was so excited for a coffee minigame. This one gets 1 point for story integration. There's absolutely no reason for us to be making coffee apart from the fact that we're just asked to. I gave it 3 points for fun because the actual coffee making is very fun. If that were it, I would definitely stop down and just make coffee for a while and give it a solid 5 out of 5 for fun. The problem is the latte art. It is so finicky, so touchy, and just essentially a nightmare for me. Because of that, I ended up giving it a 2 out of 5 for gameplay impact because at a certain point you are forced to finish a certain number of drinks before story progression can continue. And when it makes you do latte art on all of the drinks, it can just completely halt the gameplay as you try to get the finicky little drawings to work correctly. It's a nightmare. Altogether, that gives coffee making from Mystery of the Seven Keys 6 points out of 15. The next 2 are tied in points, and I ended up breaking the tie in favor of the one that I prefer since this is my own biased list. Therefore, the parfaits from Danger by Design come in at 12th place. I gave this one 2 points for story integration. Similar to Shave Ice, our reason for doing this task is really silly, but at least a minuscule attempt was made to explain why we have to do it. I would have given this one a perfect 5 out of 5 for impact on gameplay because you do it one time and then never have to do it again. However, I gave it 4 instead due to the mechanics being pretty buggy, because if you don't click the exact right spot in the parfait glass, your scoop just disappears. It's really frustrating, so I docked 1 point for that. I also only gave it 2 points for fun because there are a couple of ingredients that are easy to confuse with each other, and combine that with the bugginess, and a simple, slightly boring cooking task has become kinda irritating. That gives it a total score of 8 points out of 15. 11th place, and tied with parfaits, is sandwich making in Danger on Deception Island. This is another 1 out of 5 integration. There's absolutely zero reason that we're making the sandwich for Katie. Girly just said, "Hey Nancy, get in the kitchen and make me a sandwich." And Nancy, being the aggressively agreeable person that she is, folded like a leaf. Similar to parfaits, I would give this 5 out of 5 on impact on gameplay, but I'm docking 1 point because it's actually kinda easy to mess up on accident. There are a couple sneaky ingredients in there that make Katie sick despite not seeming obviously expired. The internet says differently, but I swear I made her an ice cream sandwich one time and she got sick, which... who hates an ice cream sandwich? Other than that, you do just have to do it the one time, so it's not very intrusive. I did give it only 3 points for fun though, because it's certainly fun to make both Nancy and Katie sick, and I do it at least once every playthrough. But in the grand scheme of things, you're not really cooking or baking, you're just putting food on bread, and that's not very exciting compared to a lot of the other cooking games. So altogether, another cooking task that gets 8 points out of 15. Okay, here's where we run into my big problem. 5 cooking tasks got 10 points out of 15, so unfortunately, a large chunk of this list did come down to personal preference. So number 10, making crackers for Lulu is a bit of a roller coaster. I gave it 4 points out of 5 for being fun. I like that you have to research what she can eat, and I absolutely love giving her the sweet, sweet release of death. I also gave it 4 points for game integration. Giving Lulu crackers can get you hints, and it also progresses the word puzzle in the tunnels. It's not a perfect integration, but it at least makes sense. However, that word puzzle is also the reason this task gets only 2 points for impact on gameplay. Even without the crackers, the entire process of the word puzzle is already irritating. You have to click through so many screens just to go up and down the tunnel stairs and redo the dragon puzzle every time. On top of that, you've got a glow stick that might die on you and force you to detour to a game with Jane, and then on top of that, Lulu might decide she doesn't want to talk again until she gets a cracker. So you have to detour again to make her a cracker because you can only keep 1 cracker in your inventory at a time. Even just explaining the process just now is exhausting. It just adds another tedious task to an already tedious puzzle that should otherwise have been very simple. 10 points out of 15 for Lulu and her crackers, and I hope she chokes on them. In 9th place is Johnny Cakes from Midnight in Salem. Johnny Cakes are one of the only actually good parts of Midnight in Salem. I gave it 5 points for impact on gameplay. You make Johnny Cakes one time and never have to do them again, even though you can do them again if you want to. I also gave them 4 points for fun. The fact that Joe screwed up the recipe is a little irritating, but it adds a fun challenge to what otherwise would have been just a basic baking puzzle. And as I'll mention a few times here, I do enjoy when we get to combine raw ingredients. Johnny Cakes suffer in the integration category though, where I've only given them 1 point. There's absolutely zero reason for us to be doing this apart from the fact that we were asked to. We essentially get nothing out of it. Therefore, Johnny Cakes ends up with another 10 points out of 15. 8th place is one that has ended up this low almost exclusively because of my personal beef with it, and that is the daily cooking in White Wolf of Icicle Creek. Let's start with the positives. I gave this one 4 points for integration. Stepping in as the cook is part of our undercover role. I did dock the 1 point because really we only needed to be the maid to snoop on the guests, and Chantal kinda shoehorned the cooking in with it, but it does make sense, it's well integrated. And I did give it the full 5 points for fun. In terms of the task itself, this is one of my favorites. It's a good level of challenge, and it's fun to try to manage the various cook times and make sure nothing burns. And I love that the 3 different meals have 3 totally different cuisines. It adds variety to a very repetitive task. Speaking of which, this task gets 1 single point for gameplay impact, and I wish I could give it less. The fact that I have to strategically plan my time throughout the day to account for meal times is absurd. For a good chunk of the game, most of the sleuthing that needs to be done is out in the snow, a pretty decent distance from the lodge, and I can barely get all the way out there before I have to sprint back to the lodge to make another meal. The travel time out in the snow is always impossible for me to keep track of, so I constantly find myself accidentally missing lunch and therefore losing part of the day. And then by the time you get back out there after lunch, you have to turn right back around because you have to be back to cook dinner. And then after dinner, it's too cold to go outside and there's nothing else to do at the lodge, so you just go straight to bed at like 7 p.m. and wake up to do more cooking and cleaning in the morning. And heaven forbid you need more heat packs and have to waste precious outside time fighting Freddy to get them. It's just a massive hindrance to the actual story and mystery that we're trying to solve, and it's so frustrating to have to work around. 10 points out of 15, and you can thank me for even giving you that. 7th place are the cookies from Silent Spy. This one really had to grow on me. Originally, I found it kinda annoying. Because of that, I did dock 1 point from the fun, giving it 4 points. I do really enjoy it now, and I think that it can actually be a good challenge trying to keep track of the layering order. It gets 3 points for integration into the story, which is the score I've given to anything that exists largely for Nancy to earn money. This is a game where Nancy does frequently need money for things like food, trains, and souvenirs, so the game does give us a real, genuine reason for this to exist. We all still know that it's there to pad out gameplay, but at least the explanation isn't completely transparent. It also gets 3 points for impact on gameplay. It doesn't take too long to stop down and make a few cookies, and the game never really forces you to stop down and do it specifically to progress gameplay. You can do it whenever you want. But it is always a bit of a bummer when you're right near the end game and realize you need 5 more train tickets and have no cash, so you have to tuck your tail between your legs and go make a few more cookies just to finish the game. Been there many times. Another 10 out of 15. Thankfully, we're at the last one tied at 10 points, and that is the Danger by Design Mint Cookies. This one gets a perfect 5 points for fun. It presents a fun challenge with substitutions, and as I mentioned, I usually find it more fun to work with the raw ingredients. I did only give it 2 points for story integration because it's another one where we're given the flimsiest, paper-thin reason for doing it. Because JJ Ling is a brat who doesn't want to go to her cushy modeling job and will only do so if Nancy makes the cookies that she was going to make. Sure, whatever. It's stupid, but it's a reason. I gave it 3 points for gameplay impact because the impact can be minimal or it can absolutely bring things to a grinding halt. One of my biggest complaints last time I replayed this game was how much painting I had to do, and this task can be Mona Lisa central if you're not careful enough with your money. The mint will always be 50 euros and you have to buy the dictionary and cooking substitution book on top of that. If you know that you can mooch off of Jean-Michel's generosity for a sprig of mint at the cafe, and also haggle well at the market, you can get out of the ordeal for the price of only a couple paintings. If not, you're in my own personal painting nightmare. Our final 10 points out of 15. I'm kinda annoyed this next one made it as high as it did, and everyone listening is gonna be mad that it's not at the very top of the list. Next on the list is the Shadow Ranch cake. I know, it's iconic. Hear me out. We'll start with the positives. Perfect 5 out of 5 integration. It makes total sense for a chore for Nancy, and it's a clue for the mystery. Of all of the cooking tasks on this list, the cake is the best integrated. That said, remember how I historically hate guess and check? The guess and check on this one is diabolical because it's only presented after you've done all the math and made the entire batter. There's not a single hint, and it's not really even just one guess and check, it's 3 guess and checks in a row. There are 36 possible combinations of pan, temperature, and time, and not a single hint for any of them. That is evil. Because of that, I have given this task 3 points for fun and 3 points for gameplay impact. Because the actual making of the batter is very fun. I love when a cooking task requires raw ingredients. But the guess and check is the worst. And this should be a nice little one and done task, but I almost always burn the cake at least once because I cannot, for the life of me, remember the correct combination of temperature and time. Who knows how many times I had to redo it my first playthrough when I was a child who'd never baked in my life. If you want to make one element guess and check, I could possibly get on board, but I repeat, 36 combinations. Just give me a normal recipe with a temperature and time, and this could have been the #1 cooking task. 11 points out of 15. Fourth place also had 11 points out of 15, but I love it, so it was never going to get put below the Shadow Ranch cake. It's also possibly a controversial one, not for enjoyment, I think everyone likes it, but it's perhaps the most debatable cooking task on this list. And that is, of course, the iconic bento from Shadow at the Water's Edge. If you think this shouldn't count because you're just moving around pre-made ingredients, I get it, that's fine. But I love it, so it ranks high on my list. As you might guess, this is a 5-point fun cooking task for me. It's possibly my favorite task on this whole list. It's a very fun logic puzzle, and I frequently totally stop down and just make bento for ages while playing Shadow at the Water's Edge. I gave this one 3 points for impact on gameplay. 2 times, the game comes to a complete standstill until you can finish the bento puzzle forced upon you. Personally, I don't find it particularly intrusive because I enjoy bento, but it is a task you're forced to do more than once, and you can't progress at all each time until you finish it. I also gave it 3 points for integration into the story. Yumi's reason for forcing us to do bento is pretty flimsy both times, but the second time triggers Nancy's overnight at her apartment, which does end up being important for progressing the mystery. So overall, 11 points out of 15 for bento. Third place is another personal favorite of mine, and one that perhaps is not the most universal fave. It's drink making in Haunting of Castle Malloy. This one is 5 out of 5 fun for me. The recipes are fun, and there are a lot of different elements that go into each drink between the flavors, cups, blending, and garnishes. I always love taking a pause on solving the mystery and just playing mixologist for a bit. This is another one that gets 3 points for integration into the story, since it's used as a way for Nancy to make money. Money in this game isn't the most vital, it's only really used for the arcade games and getting hints from the fortune teller machine, but at least it's a legitimate reason. Because of that, I've given it 4 points for impact on gameplay, because the people in this pub are pretty generous with their tips, and therefore you don't really have to play barmaid for too long to earn enough money for the entire game. Altogether, this one earns 12 points out of 15. We're down to the last 2, and full transparency, it's another tie. But I ended up breaking the tie in favor of the cooking task I prefer between the 2. So without any further ado, in second place, it's Cheeseburger from Last Train to Blue Moon Canyon. This one gets a perfect 5 points for gameplay impact. You stop down and do it once, and you never have to touch it again, even if you wanted to. And sometimes I do want to. I've given it 4 points for story integration because Frank is there on a secret little undercover spy mission to listen to the old-timer and gain information about his ancestor. It ties in perfectly to the story, but I docked a point because it's always felt very far-fetched and silly to me, so I felt like I couldn't give it the full 5 points. I also gave it 4 points for fun because it's another one where essentially you're just constructing a burger from existing toppings, but it's funny to listen to the old-timer ramble, and it offers a decent challenge for orders like all of the ingredients except the ones beginning with P. Plus, I love getting to make my own burger at the end because burgers are one of my favorite foods. Drop your recipe in the comments. I love a peanut butter bacon jalapeno cheeseburger, which is actually my IRL order. I love a peanut butter burger. 13 points out of 15 for Cheeseburger. And finally, first place, but technically tied with the cheeseburgers. We all know it. We all love it. It's Snack Shop from Warnings at Waverly Academy. This is also the only challenge to receive perfect scores in more than one category. This is a perfect 5 out of 5 fun. At this point, when replaying Waverly Academy, I almost always do Snack Shop enough times to get credits every day, and it's for no reason other than I just love it. Listening to gossip is fun, and I get a good giggle at every lettuce sandwich I have to make. Plus, the teacher orders add a nice little challenge. I also gave it a perfect 5 points for story integration because every other student has a student job, so obviously Nancy also has to have one. Both Nancy's job and some other students' jobs are referenced multiple times throughout the game, really emphasizing how well integrated this is into the story. I did only give it 3 points for impact on gameplay though, because you do have to remember to do it every day or risk getting demerits. And there are a couple times that characters ask you to bring them a snack from the snack shop in return for something you need, and you do have to do a full snack shop session to get that order. It's a nice reminder to do it, and it also reinforces the story relevance of the job, but if you're a presumably non-existent person who hates snack shop, it does force you to stop down and do it more than you might otherwise want to. So another 13 points out of 15 for Snack Shop. And genuinely, please tell me if a single one of you out there does not like Snack Shop, because everyone universally seems to love this one. So that's my ranking of the food challenges in the Nancy Drew games. I'm sure I lost some of you with the Shadow Ranch cake placement, but I hope I made up for that disappointment with the Snack Shop in first place. Let me know down in the comments what your favorite cooking challenges are and why I'm wrong about the Shadow Ranch cake. So, hello, hi, long time no see. How you doing? I know last time you heard from me, I'd promised some rankings for the Genius Season 4 and then totally went MIA. Sorry about that. I promise those will come eventually, but to be honest, I want to try and not make those types of promises because I want this to be a fun, guilt-free space where I can just yap about things without it feeling like a chore. And I really ran myself into the ground trying to rewatch The Genius and make the rankings at the speed I was trying to, and then spent months frustrated at myself for being unable to finish what I started. So, Genius Season 4 someday, but not today. Hopefully soon-ish, but no promises. And also no promises on what's next, but this is typically Nancy Drew season for me, so there's likely more Nancy around the corner. If you'd like to hear what I yap about next, please follow or subscribe on whatever platform you're currently listening on. You can also follow me on Instagram if you're so inclined, the link is below. I've been inactive on there just like I have been on here, but you never know when I'll pop back in. And as always, thank you for listening to me as I made some niche references.